The moment the grid fails, it does not collapse with noise or spectacle. It slips out of alignment. Frequency drifts, voltage destabilizes, and protective systems begin isolating faults faster than operators can respond. Within seconds, what should have been a localized disturbance becomes a regional imbalance, and within minutes, a cascading failure spreads across interconnected systems that depend on synchronization to survive. This is the real danger, not the outage itself, but the speed at which stability disappears while everything still looks temporarily normal. The analysis begins with understanding that electrical grids are not storage systems. They are real-time balancing mechanisms. Power generation must match consumption instantly. When a disruption occurs, whether from overload, equipment failure, or environmental stress, the system compensates automatically, but these compensations have limits. Once exceeded, automated protections disconnect entire sections to prevent physical damage. This protective logic, while necessary, creates fragmentation. The grid does not shut down uniformly. It breaks apart unevenly, leaving pockets of instability that cannot support recovery without precise coordination. The common misunderstanding is that power restoration is simply a matter of repair. In reality, restarting a collapsed grid requires a process called black start, where select generators with independent startup capability gradually rebuild the network. This process is slow, delicate, and highly dependent on communication systems that may already be degraded. Most people assume outages are measured in hours because that is what they have experienced. Large-scale failures, however, operate on entirely different timelines where recovery depends on sequencing, not speed. Hidden within this scenario is a critical layer of science: cascading infrastructure dependency. Water systems rely on electrically powered pumps to maintain pressure and enable purification. Without pressure, contaminants can enter pipelines through backflow. Telecommunications rely on backup batteries that are typically designed for short-term interruptions, not sustained collapse. Fuel distribution depends on electric pumps at refineries, pipelines, and retail stations. Each system has a different failure curve, but they all trend toward degradation once the grid remains down. Evidence from past events demonstrates this sequence clearly. During major blackouts, water pressure loss often begins within hours. Especially in high-density urban systems, communication networks become unreliable as battery reserves deplete and network congestion increases. Fuel availability declines rapidly, not because of shortage, but because of inaccessibility. These are not isolated failures. They are linked responses to a single initiating event. The survival implications are not centered on panic or stockpiling alone, but on timing and behavioral shift. The first phase of a grid-down event is defined by a temporary overlap between system failure and residual functionality. This is the window where water still flows, stores are open, and communication exists, but only briefly. Most individuals hesitate during this phase, waiting for confirmation or official guidance. This hesitation compresses their available options into a much narrower time frame. The escalation occurs as this window closes. Refrigeration systems fail, leading to food degradation. Water systems lose pressure, increasing health risks. Communication becomes fragmented, reducing coordination and situational awareness. Each failure compounds the next, creating a layered breakdown that accelerates with time. Human behavior begins to shift as uncertainty increases, but by then the environment has already changed. Transitioning into effective response requires recognizing that stability will not return quickly. The objective shifts from waiting to adapting. This means securing resources while systems still partially function, establishing alternative methods for communication and water safety, and reducing dependence on infrastructure that is no longer reliable. The difference between early action and delayed response is not convenience, it is survivability under conditions.
As the outage extends beyond the initial phase, the environment begins to shift from disruption to sustained instability. What was once a temporary inconvenience becomes a structural absence of support systems. The danger now is no longer hidden in the speed of failure, but in the persistence of it. Human systems are designed for continuity, not prolonged interruption. Once that continuity is broken, stress accumulates across every dependent layer, and the margin for error narrows rapidly. Delayed adaptation increases vulnerability. The human tendency is to conserve effort early, assuming recovery is imminent, and then overreact once conditions worsen. This inversion of response is inefficient. The optimal strategy is the opposite, front-loading effort during the early window while systems still have residual functionality. By the time scarcity is visible, the opportunity to prepare efficiently has already passed. The hidden science governing this phase is rooted in system inertia and decay. Infrastructure does not fail instantly, it degrades in layers. Backup generators require fuel, and fuel requires supply chains. Batteries discharge at fixed rates regardless of demand urgency. Water systems lose not only pressure, but also chemical balance, allowing microbial growth. These processes are governed by physical and chemical laws that do not adjust to human urgency. Understanding these timelines allows for predictive action rather than reactive scrambling. Evidence from extended outages shows that the second and third days are often the tipping point. During these periods, emergency services begin operating under constrained capacity. Hospitals rely heavily on generator power, but fuel logistics become critical. Communication networks experience fragmentation, where local connectivity may exist, but broader coordination fails. This fragmentation leads to isolated decision-making, increasing inefficiency and risk. The survival implications are clear. Stability must be artificially recreated at the individual or small group level. This means establishing controlled routines that replace lost infrastructure functions. Water must be treated, not assumed safe. Food consumption must shift toward preservation and rationing rather than normal patterns. Communication must become deliberate, relying on pre-established methods rather than spontaneous connectivity. The routine is not about comfort, it is about maintaining function in an environment where external systems no longer provide it. Escalation continues as psychological factors begin to influence outcomes as much as physical ones. Uncertainty, lack of information, and disrupted routines increase cognitive load, leading to poor decision-making. Individuals who fail to establish structure early often experience decision fatigue, which reduces their ability to respond effectively as conditions worsen. In contrast, those who implement consistent routines conserve mental energy and maintain clarity under pressure. The final transition in this scenario is the shift from expectation of recovery to acceptance of prolonged disruption. This is the point where survival is no longer about bridging a temporary gap, but about operating within a new baseline of limited resources and reduced support. The grid, when it returns, will not instantly restore normal conditions. Systems will require stabilization, inspection, and gradual reintegration. The absence of power is only the first phase. The return of power is another complex process with its own risks and delays. In the end, the critical factor is not the event itself, but the timing of response. The difference between those who remain stable and those who struggle is defined by actions taken before the full impact becomes visible. The routine that seems unnecessary in the early hours becomes essential in the later days, and once the system has fully degraded, it is no longer possible to go back and recover the lost time. As the outage extends beyond the initial